Good morning. Good Friday morning to you, boys and girls. We are going to continue. We are week 6, day 5 of our Read Out Louds. So, we are reading the last few chapters of Mr. Tony is Full of Baloney. So, I hope you've liked what I've read so far. We read chapters 1 and 2 on Monday, 3, 4 on Tuesday, 5 and 6 on Wednesday. 7 and 8 on Thursday. So make sure you're watching those, okay? And then today I am reading chapters 9, 10, and I think this has an 11. So I'll be reading 3, okay? So just bear with me. I'm going to read with you. And I hope you like the reading. I hope I'm not boring you. Okay, let me get started. So we're on chapter 9. Ready? It's called The Greatest Day of My Life. I love it, Mr. Tony said when we told him about our idea. Remember, their idea was about the pizza, about getting the moms to help make pizza. Why didn't I think of making the biggest pizza in the world? That will be a lot easier than pogo juggling and egg jogging. Everybody was excited about getting into the Guinness Book of World Records, but little Miss Perfect had on her worried face. What's the matter, Andrea? Asked Mr. Tony. How will we put the pizza in the oven? She asked. To make the biggest pizza in the world, don't we need the biggest oven in the world? Andrea's right, said Emily, who always thinks Andrea is right. No problem, said Mr. Tony. I'll take care of that. We'll heat up the tomato sauce and cheese first. Then we'll spread them on the pizza crust. Then we'll have to make the pizza out in the playground because it will be too big to fit in here. But there's another problem, Andrea said. What will we do with the pizza after we make it? We can't eat a pizza that big. It would be terrible to just throw it away. What a waste of a food. I know. We can give the pizza to a food bank so they can feed the hungry people, I suggested. AJ, you're a genius, Michael said. No wonder I'm in the gifted and talented program. Everything was falling into place. Mom said that the 6 moms would be happy to supply the ingredients for our giant pizza. And Miss LaGrange, our lunch lady, had said that she would help us heat up the sauce in the kitchen and then put the pizza together. Mr. Tony called the Guinness Book of World Records people, and they said that they would send someone over to see our pizza in person and prove that it is the biggest pizza in the world. Let's not tell anyone about our giant pizza, Mr. Tony told us. Not even Mr. Klutz, because if the word gets out that we're making the biggest pizza in the world, somebody might try to steal our idea and make a bigger pizza than ours. My lips were sealed, but not with glue or anything, because that would be weird. Finally, the day came to put together our giant pizza. During recess, 3 huge trucks came over to the playground. One had a ton of cheese in it. One had a ton of tomato sauce in it, and then one had huge pizza crust. Guys wearing overalls got out of the trucks and they started unloading all the stuff. How did the 6 moms get a truck full of tomato sauce? I asked my mom. We went to the rent a truck full of tomato sauce, she said. You can rent anything. Everybody pitched in to help. Miss Hannah, our art teacher, put gigantic pieces of cardboard down on the playground. We all unrolled the giant pizza crust onto the cardboard. It was the size of a swimming pool. Then Mr. Tony came out of the school. He was carrying this thing that looked like a super soaker, but there was a huge tank strapped to its back, like the kind scuba divers wear. What's that thing? Ryan asked. It's a flamethrower, said Mr. Tony. What does it do? Asked Michael. It throws flame, said Mr. Tony. So it has the perfect name, I said. Flamethrower. So then Mr. Tony pulled the trigger on the flamethrower and a giant explosion of fire came out. We all jumped back. I could feel the heat on my face. Mr. Tony walked around the pizza crust, shooting fire all around it. That thing is cool, we all said. Where did you get a flamethrower? The nude kid asked Mr. Tony. From Rent a Flamethrower, he replied. You can rent anything. After a few minutes of flamethrowing, the giant pizza crust had turned from white to brown. Okay, Mr. Tony said as he turned off the flamethrower. It's cooked. Pour our sauce. Pour on the sauce. The truck full of tomato sauce backed up to the pizza and dumped its load into the crust. The 6 moms used rakes and shovels to spread the sauce evenly. Bring on the cheese, shouted Mr. Tony. The 6 moms shoveled the cheese off the truck and carried it over to the pizza. This is so exciting, Ryan's mom said as she scattered shovels of cheese on top of the sauce. Our first catering job. What a way to start our new company, said Michael's mom. This is much more fun than making little sandwiches, said Emily's mom. Now, for the toppings, my mom said, taking a bucket out of her car. Pepperoni, salami, bologna, and pastrami. Mom, I complained. Pizza doesn't have lunch meat on it. It's a fancy pizza, Mom told me as she flung the slices of pizza on like little frisbees. Go ahead, Mr. Tony said. You can put anything on the pizza. Finally, after 1,100 hours, the pizza was finished. We all stepped back to look at our masterpiece. We did it. We made the world's biggest pizza. Everybody in school came out into the playground to see what all the excitement was about. The teachers, they were taking photos with their cell phone cameras. I'm going to put this up on the school website, said Mrs. Yonkers, our computer teacher. I'm going to write a children's book about it, said Mr. Mackey, our reading specialist. What a mess. I will have to clean it up, said Mrs. Lazar, our custodian. Where's Mr. Klutz? Asked Andrea. He should be here to see this. Mr. Klutz told me he had to go to a meeting, said Mrs. Patty, the school secretary. He'll be back soon. So Mr. Tony's cell phone rang and he answered it and he spoke to somebody. It was a guy from the Guinness Book of World Records. He told us, a lady will be here in a few minutes to measure our pizza and to prove that we did break the record. She came all the way from England. Channel 7 News called too, Mrs. Patty said. They're coming over to cover the story. Our pizza is going to be on TV. Everybody was like freaking excited. Mr. Tony was going to be famous, and it was all because of my genius idea. It was the greatest day of my life. That's when the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. But I'm not going to tell you what it was. Okay, I'll tell you. But you have to read the next chapter. So, na-na-na-boo-boo on you. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 9. We're doing chapter 10. It's called Pizza Toppings. The lady from the Guinness Book of World Records is here, Mrs. Patty announced over the loudspeaker. And so is Channel 7 News. Everybody was even more excited when 2 vans pulled up to the school driveway. The Channel 7 News team got out with cameras and microphones and stuff. We all ran over to greet the lady from the Guinness Book of World Records. Chip, chip, cheerio, old chap, she said as she shook hands with Mr. Tony. So where's this extremely large pizza I heard so much about? Follow me, Mr. Tony said. I can't wait to see it, said the Guinness Book of World Records lady. I have seen some pretty big pizzas in my time, but she never got the chance to finish her sentence because suddenly there was a loud rumbling sound over at the playground. What's that? Andrea asked. Look up in the air, yelled Ryan. It's a bird, yelled Michael. It's a plane. No, it's a parachuting ape. Oh my gosh. Who could that be? It was true. High above our heads, an ape was floating down over the school under a big white parachute. The Channel 7 News team was pointing their cameras up in the air. It's not an ape, yelled Andrea. It's Mr. Klutz. He's in an ape suit. Andrea was right, and he was coming down directly over our heads. Everybody was yelling and screaming, freaking out and waving their hands. Mr. Klutz! Mr. Klutz! No, not here, we were yelling. Not here. Mr. Klutz was coming down right over the pizza. Run for your lives! shouted Neil the nude kid. Watch out! No! And that's when Mr. Klutz hit the ground right in the middle of our pizza. It was a real Kodak moment. Everybody came running over to the edge of the pizza. Glub, glub, Mr. Klutz yelled. Help, I can't swim. He's drowning in tomato sauce, Emily shouted. We gotta do something. I'll save you, shouted Mr. Tony, and he dived headfirst into the middle of the pizza, and Mr. Klutz was flailing all over the place. Look at Mr. Klutz. Silly Mr. Klutz. Like a fish on the bottom of a boat, Mr. Tony kept trying to grab him, but they were both covered with tomato sauce, and they were just slipping and sliding all over the place. You should have been there. Mr. Klutz was freaking out. We saw it live and in person, and he had cheese all over his bald head. And Mr. Tony, he was full of baloney. I say, old chaps, said the Guinness lady, where are those blokes wrestling in your giant pizza? No, why are those blokes wrestling in your giant pizza? The guy with the mustache is our after-school program director, I told her. And the bald guy with cheese on his head, that's our principal. Ah, I see, the Guinness lady said. Pizza wrestling must be sort of a strange American tradition like baseball. Finally, Mr. Tony was able to pull Mr. Klutz off the pizza, and the two of them were a mess. Who put that giant pizza in the middle of the playground? Asked Mr. Klutz as he wiped tomato sauce off his face. We did, Mr. Tony told him. We made it so we could be in the Guinness Book of World Records. Why did you land on our pizza? It was windy, Mr. Klutz said. I saw the big red circle down below, and I got confused. I thought it was the circle on the roof of the school. From up in the air, it looked like a target. It's not a target, Mr. Tony explained. It's the biggest pizza in the world. Don't count your chickens until they are hatched, said the Guinness lady. I'm terribly sorry, chaps, but I cannot accept this record for the Guinness Book. Why not? We all asked. The rules state very clearly that people are supposed to make the pizza, she said, not wrestle in it. Can't we get into the Guinness Book of World Records for making the biggest pizza with two guys wrestling in it? Asked Michael. That must be a world record. Sorry, no, said the Guinness lady. Doesn't Mr. Klutz count as a pizza topping? I suggested. I'm sorry, said the Guinness lady. Well, thank you. I've had a lovely time, but I've got to get back to jolly old England now. Chip, chap, cheerio, chaps. The Guinness lady left, and the Channel 7 News crew packed up their cameras and microphones. Everybody at school was really sad. Our pizza wasn't going to be in the Guinness Book of World Records. Mr. Tony wasn't going to be famous. We wouldn't even be able to give our pizza to the food bank. Hungry people don't want to eat a pizza that two guys were wrestling in it. Mr. Tony was really mad that this pizza was ruined. Mr. Klutz was really mad that his parachute jump was ruined. Miss Lazar was really mad because there was even more cleaning up to do, and she made us all pitch in to help, and it took 1,100,000 hours. Finally, I got into the car with my mom to go home. We both smelled like pizza. I was sure we were going to get into the Guinness Book of World Records, I told her. Well, you shouldn't count your chickens before they hatched, she replied. What did chickens have to do with it? We didn't even put any chicken on the pizza. Okay, that's the end of chapter 10. So now we're doing chapter 11, okay? Last chapter, boys and girls. It's called A Happy Ending. How could it be a happy ending? When we got home, the phone was ringing. My mom picked it up, and she talked with somebody for a long time. When she hung up, she said, I just got some more bad news, AJ. Your nose isn't that bad? I told her. Mr. Klutz is very angry about what happened, she told us. He says he's not going to pay us for all that tomato sauce, cheese, and crust that the 6 moms had bought. So? I said. So my company is bankrupt, Mom told me sadly. The 6 moms is out of business. Wait a minute, I said. If the 6 moms is out of business. That means... It means I have to take you out of the school after school program, she told me. Hooray! I yelled. I can watch TV again? Yippee! I was running around and jumping and going crazy. It was like the greatest moment of my life. I ran to the TV like I was in the Olympics. It had been so long since I watched TV that I almost forgot which remote control to use to turn it on. Finally, I got the TV working. There was a man and a lady on the screen, and below their faces it said, "Breaking news!" I hired the volume up. "This just in," the news lady said. "A crazy man in an ape suit costume jumps out of an airplane today over elementary school. He landed in an enormous pizza that was in the playground. It turns out the man was Mr. Klutz, the principal of the school. Can you believe anybody would do such a crazy thing?" "I guess this Mr. Klutz is nuts," said the newsman sitting next to her. "He's just another pathetic person trying to get famous, like the guy who said his son was in a hot air balloon. It's just so sad that people want to be famous so badly." "This story has a happy ending, though," the news lady said. "The crazy principal was rescued by Mr. Tony, the after-school program director of elementary school. He dived into the pizza and pulled Mr. Klutz out before that nutty principal drowned in tomato sauce." "Mr. Tony is a real hero," the newsman said, "like the pilot who landed the plane on the river in New York City. Mr. Tony is the one who deserves to be famous, not that crazy principal. In fact," the news lady said, "we understand that Mr. Tony will be writing a book about his life story that will be made into a movie. So I guess he will be famous when all of this is over." Well, that's pretty much what happened. Maybe I'll start liking asparagus. Maybe me and the guys will come count some chickens before they hatch. Maybe my mom will get a new job as a brain surgeon, and maybe somebody will invent a homework machine, and maybe Mr. Klutz will grow some hair on his head, and maybe we'll tunnel out of the school, and maybe pogo juggling, egg jogging, and pizza wrestling will become Olympic sports. Maybe Mr. Tony will stop chain smoking. Maybe we'll figure out why army guys say 10 hut. Maybe Mr. Tony will take us boating. Maybe the sequel to Halloween will become a real holiday. Maybe Mr. Tony will break some other record to get in the Guinness Book of World Records. But it won't be easy. The end. Good story, right? This was a long one. We had 3 chapters to read, but it was a good story. Okay, so if you're going to AR test on it, boys and girls, the quiz number is 141984. Okay, and the level is a 3.8. All right, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed today's Read Out Louds. That ends this book. Okay, so remember, tune in for Monday. Monday, I will have another My Weird School book. And have an amazing weekend, boys and girls. I'll see you.